Why are you calling me? I'm right here. I live with you. Oh, good point. Well, I guess I can save that monthly phone call then. So basically what I was thinking is I want to do these like epic training sessions. I've got this one in mind. It's like 2 hours at FTP. I just want to go and smash it, eh? Like, I reckon it'll bring me to gains. No, I think I've got a better idea. It's a little bit toned down, but I think it's going to lead to some better gains long term. How about you do that? Yeah, I guess you do know what you're talking about. All right, let's get to it. Where do you go?
Bike path there. It's about 10 minutes from my house to get onto it. It's got some real nice punchy climbs. Just forces you to have to ride a little bit hard. It's just lovely on a day like this. So double day, 2 sessions, 1 on the bike, 1 in the gym. So the bike session is in 2 parts. Going to do 3 by 6 minute efforts to start with, and 1 of them on the flat, 2 of them on a climb. Aiming for about 425 watts for those 6 minute efforts. Nothing super hard. The aim is just to maintain some work over threshold without absolutely smashing myself for the second half of the bike session or for this afternoon. Let's get to it. Touch harder than I anticipated there, but that's fine for the first one. But definitely want to keep these next 2 under control. The aim isn't to totally smash myself here. But that was good. I got a ride to the climb. I'm going to do the last 2 of these on, which is Mangakawa. In some ways it's not a good climb for intervals like this because you've got this little flat bit in the middle, but at the same time actually having to change pace, speed, gear, all that sort of stuff is actually quite good at times during an effort too, to make it a bit more realistic or specific as well. So that's where we're headed now. So I'm sure you've heard people say, do your easy rides easy and your hard efforts hard, but you gotta realise everything is a continuum. It's not every hard effort needs to be that hard. There is an in-between, and there is a use for doing that sometimes. Especially a day like today where I'm not really aiming to drive massive progress here, I just want to do some maintenance work there. Make sure it's not too long without kind of hitting that sort of intensity range. So the key point here is just don't lock yourself into having to do a certain duration effort in a certain watt range or things like that. Doesn't need to be full gas all the time. Likewise, it will need to be full gas sometimes. But how often you need to go full gas, it might actually surprise you how little that can be to actually drive consistent progress. There she is. Just about time for the first of these. Try and keep it under control this time. Real nice one there. 1 of those to go. Okay, time for the last one. Couldn't help myself. 441 there. A little bit too hard at the start. Eased up in the middle to control it. And then I felt good at the end, so I did just give it a little bit of a burst. Definitely want to keep this next 2 under control. Now I'm riding to the top because it'll be an absolutely stunning view. Trying to cruise up, but it's another real steep one here. When you finish your effort right on the corkscrew, it's not great. All right, I'll show you the view at the top. Next set of efforts, it's 3 efforts. They're 45 seconds each. really hard, basically max effort across the session, but they don't actually take that much out of you because they're all low cadence. There's a lot of debate about torque training. What it does, is it beneficial? To keep it really simple, I think of it in two ways. Peak force, how much force can you develop, which is not what this is. That's why I'm going to the gym after the session. And then the other component, which I'm working on here, sustained force, or actually applying that force around a pedal stroke rather than sort of to a force in a squat or a leg press or something like that. So applying it actually to the bike. So I did a big block of this work when I got home from China. I was absolutely cooked on the bike, really tired. So got in the gym really hard, had a bit of time off the bike, and then introduced a lot of this sort of shorter work like this. And it's paid a lot of dividends, but the last couple of weeks, gym's been shut, sort of moved into more of an aerobic block. You always just got to think a little bit about what you've done in the past and how you're going to maintain it. So use it or lose it. If you don't do these sort of efforts, then the gains you had just disappear over time. I managed to cut myself shaving this morning. It's stinging a bit on my lip, eh? First 15 seconds of these, I stand up, really get the power cranking. Last 30 seconds, all seated. About onto it, let's go do it. I'm pretty happy with how they went. 64, 63 and 61 RPM. It was like 598, 609 and 602 watts or something like that for each of them. But I actually judged these efforts and how they went based on torque rather than power. So I need to double check what I was sort of doing several weeks ago now when I did a session like that. But I'm pretty happy with how they went based on the sort of numbers I'd typically expect. Normally I'd do 7 of them, but that would be the only efforts in the session. So I got about 45 minutes endurance to do. Gotta head out to the lake because it'll be pretty nice out there today. Then we're off to the gym this afternoon. So what's a guy like me, pretty wily, built like a number 8 fence, what's he doing going to the gym? Well, you can still increase your strength and therefore your max force by going to the gym even if you're not getting big. We know your max force is going to be multiplied by the RPM you're doing, and then that's going to lead to peak power. That's one reason. So basically improve your peak power a little bit. Might not still win many sprints, but might have more of a chance. Well, every sprint in the race will just take less out of you. So that's one reason. Improve muscular economy, basically reduce the amount of energy and oxygen you need in order to ride. Also just things like bone density, general health is real important for that. And there's so many other reasons. This is one of those sessions that can feel a little bit like a bit of a nothing session. There's some efforts there, but not enough to really have you feeling super fatigued and smashed by the end. Feels like a bit of a nothing session, but it can actually be one of the most important ones you do, just because it maintains things, stops you getting worse. Progressing forward is really hard and takes time. That's why it's really important to make sure you don't go backwards. So you can do a whole bunch of work on one particular area and then you just don't touch it for ages, and all of a sudden you go way backwards on it, lose a good chunk of what you did. Now this is probably always going to happen anyway, but if you can maintain a lot of what you've built, you're going to be so much better off going forward. Now the gym follows a very similar trend today. It's been about 2.5 weeks since I've been, so there's nothing too full gas, just getting back the movement patterns, back a bit of loading. Now while it's pretty cool to step outside my office and see a velodrome and people riding and stuff like that, every time I come out to do some work with rowing, gotta say on a nice day I'm pretty jealous of the view they get. We're off to lift some tin. So normally I do a couple of key exercises. So basically I'd say my main exercise is a squat, trap bar deadlift, single leg press, and then kind of add on a couple of things like step ups, RDLs, hamstring curls, a few things like that. Occasionally just a regular deadlift, but today I'd just be doing, I reckon, about 3 sets of squats, trap bar deadlift, single leg press and leg curl. Not too heavy. Normally I do probably 5 sets maybe of each, perhaps 4 if I'm going particularly heavy, but today just getting the movement pattern of each back, a little bit of load, getting back used to it, so then next week can start actually ramping it up a little bit again without too much DOMs. So we have a gym session all done, actually felt quite good, to be honest. It's been 2.5 weeks, so I wouldn't expect massive losses. Put up what I did on screen. I did get up to about 90 kg squat, which was a PB just before I stopped, just before we went on the break. It wasn't pretty when I did that though, so pretty pleased to be quite controlled and get to where I got to on that and everything else, to be honest. So I feel I'm actually already a little bit sore just on the quick cruise home at the moment. But so one thing people talk about is the interference effect. So basically combining endurance training and strength training. You don't need to worry about this too much, and the thing is, as a cyclist, you're probably not going to want to do strength training too hard on your rest days, so you're going to basically have to put it on a day where you're doing some riding anyway. Just try and separate it by as much time as possible really, and you'll be fine. And also, when you're aiming more for strength gains rather than hypertrophy or anything like that, it's going to be less important, less of that crossover effect anyway. Typically I go a little bit lower rep range for a few of those exercises when I get a bit heavier, and typically if you were just doing a maintenance session, I'd actually advise going really heavy and just not doing a lot of sets or reps. But today, when it's been a little while off, technique can be a little bit iffy, things like that. Don't want to go too hard, don't want to risk an injury, don't want to risk too much soreness, things like that. So lighter weight, not crazy high reps of course, but just a little bit higher. Just get it done and get back into the swing of things. I know the explanation's been a little bit brief there. It's something you can dive much deeper into, but if you like the video, please like it. If you want to see more, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.